Greetings, traveler.
We have a new hotfix for Battlegrounds. Let's dive right in. So this is really the biggest change of the hotfix. We have Apex's Guardian going from 3 other friendly mechs to 2 other friendly mechs. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but that is going to slow down the scaling like crazy, right? That's a 33% nerf on how fast you scale, because if you're adding fewer volumizers to your board, that means that the future volumizers are going to be smaller. So that might not seem like a lot, but I think that is going to do still quite a bit. Where right now, if you're in a mech lobby, especially if beasts are in, it does feel like you either hit Macaw Apexis or you're kind of just not getting there, right? So that is a significant nerf. Now, I do think that it's in a position where it's not dead or anything. I think you can still play this, but it needs to make sense for your board. Whereas before, it didn't necessarily need to make sense. You're just like, oh, I hit it. I don't have Macaw, I don't have Titus. Let's just kind of run with it and see where it goes because it's so strong. That didn't always work, I gotta be clear. So you didn't always just win if you hit this. But yeah, if you already had a Macaw and a Titus, it was kind of over. So yeah, probably gonna be fine. Now, I do want to clarify that before we continue in this with the next changes, that this is a hotfix. It's not a full patch yet. So what that means is that we likely still have a big patch where they're changing effects and they're I don't know what they're gonna do, like, but basically probably more time warp changes or minion changes or something, because during hotfixes they have a pretty limited amount of stuff they can change. Generally speaking, it's just going to be cost changes, right? So the Apexes, I think, is the only one that isn't really a cost. Well, that's not true. There's like some minor changes. But anyways, just so you know that we probably still have another patch to look forward to, seeing as this is just a hotfix. Okie dokie. So the following cards now cost 2 chronums instead of 1. We have Time Warp Big Winner, which was the best by far, I think. This thing at 2 chronums is still going to be slam dunk, I think. Because every 2 turns, you're getting Steal the Shop or discover a high tier minion or make a minion golden. Especially if you get Steal the Shop as your first option, that is just so ludicrous. So it's turn 6, you get your small Time Warp, you pick the Big Winner, you get the Steal Shop, you level, you roll, you steal the shop, you get rich, you get strong, you can power level. It's quite good. It's quite good. So this thing being 1 chronum was ridiculous. Flurgo going to 2 chronums. I'm not sure, because the stats were probably quite heavily skewed from when Drama Lock was in. And when Drama Lock was in, that was sort of just a free win where I'm Flurk, I generate a lot of Murlocs, I might even generate a Drama Lock, but I'm playing a lot of Murlocs for my Bream counter. My Bream counter now gets huge. It has great support on my Drama Lock. So not sure if this had to go to 2 chronums, but probably in the stats it definitely looked broken simply because how good Drama Lock was, but not sure if I'm going to be super excited to pick a 2-cost Flurk. Probably in an elemental pirate Murloc lobby where there's a lot of stuff to cycle that's still interesting. Then we have the Time Warped Commander. Spellcrafts. This thing goes to 2 chronums, and I picked it a lot. At 1 chronum, it was a lot of tempo, so I can see that. That was a good tempo pickup. I'm not sure how happy I'm going to be picking it up at 2, but again, I can see that in the stats it was probably overperforming. Then Time Warped Secretary I didn't really play with a lot, but I see that this activates in combat as well. So it does work with the 3-drop Naga that casts Spellcraft on itself. It does work with the Bluesy Siren that casts Spellcrafts. So maybe that was a little bit too good if you had a setup for it, and then you picked Secretary and you were casting a lot of Spellcrafts. During the combat, you were essentially starting your turn with a handful of Spellcrafts and Tavern spells, and then you could also still cast Spellcrafts during your turn, obviously. So yeah, that's probably why, but I don't really have that much experience with the Secretary. Ooh, okay, so these now cost 1 chronum, and a lot of these make a ton of sense. Shudderwock I definitely bought from time to time at 2, but I probably overpaid looking back at those games, so that's fair. Time Warp Alley Cat can be really good, but requires so much setup. You kind of just have to Mutinous on top of it. You can make triples with it, but you also need to leave a lot of board space, and then you're summoning 5/5s at the end of the turn, and yeah, so maybe now when it costs 1, you can actually pick it up. Botany and Henchman going to 1 makes a ton of sense. Those were really awkward to pick up. Botany I've picked up like probably twice or so. Henchman I don't think any times, because yeah, like Rafan Buddy is not that impressive if you get it on turn 6. In the Buddy anomaly it was really good because you got it on turn 3. That's a huge difference, right? You get a lot more money if you get it on turn 3 versus turn 6. Then Nelly Ship. Now, I did see Jeeve being excited about Nelly Ship in Beast Pirate lobbies because you can macaw this and reborn it and really farm. Actually, I don't know if the reborn works, but the macaw works, right? So macaw on Nelly Ship, you can farm a lot of triples. So it being on 1 cost now, that is interesting, where you could pick that up quite more often in a Beast Pirate lobby and use macaw to trigger this and farm a lot of triples. And then we have Thorncaller. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I played a lot of Coolbur games so far. It's been obviously Murlocs when Dramalock was in, then Mechs with Apexis, but before it was nerfed. So maybe now we get to see a little bit more Coolbur action. Then these all cost 1 chronum as well. So we have some lessers and some greaters already here. Time Warp Tipper, I've never picked. Veilstraws, I've never picked. So that makes sense. Make those suckers 1 cost. I don't think I care about Tavern Tipper or Time Warp Tipper, right? If you have any unspent gold at the end of your turn, get a random minion and a Tavern spell. Like maybe. At 1 cost, things get way more pickable because you usually have a 1 cost thing you want to take and then you just take whatever, and Time Warp Tipper might be the whatever. You could be my whatever. Right? It's like, that's very high praise. Time Warp Bloodbinder, again, I've never picked simply because I haven't really been Quill. There hasn't been much incentive to be Quills, so that helps, right? So now we have the nerfs on the Mechs and the Murlocs, the buffs here for the Quillbor, so perhaps we might be getting into Quillbor. Now, I have picked Carathras before, and both my games where I picked them were nice, so interesting to see that go to 1 chronum. Because if you just have a few summons, you, especially with dragons in, the dragon that makes a dragon that makes a dragon, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? The 4-drop, I think, that makes the whelps, the taunted whelps. That works really well with Carathras because that's easy summons, and you can even run Titus for more summons. And you can easily fill your hand with Deep Blue during the combat. You could have 10 Deep Blues. So this one, that's probably a little personal bias because I've had good results with it. I think it could have stayed at 2, but again, the stats probably indicated that it was not good. So yeah, and I'm not saying it's horrible. Like now it's just like, okay, cool. Now I get the card that I already kind of like at 1 chronum. I'll take it. Prism Scale, again, I've never bought. Avenge 3, get a random Tavern spell to give stats. Just feels like the meta is so fast. All right, so this is it might have slowed down a bit now with the Apexis nerf, but right now the meta is spike hard, spike early, which does mean that the end comps are weaker, so people aren't as greedy, they can't save too long. We see like fewer golden brands and stuff like that. I still try because I think it's fun. So picking up this like value card on turn 9 looked very difficult because it's like, okay, it's turn 9, the game is going really fast, I might be below damage cap or close to below damage cap already. Picking up something that is just going to be like avenge add spells to my hand is kind of tough, right? You need, like, that's why the Carathras is good. It's like instant tempo, because if you just farm a handful of Deep Blues, even if your Deep Blues were at no buffs before, that's still a lot of tempo, right? You have a handful of Deep Blues. So yeah, I like those cards that have an instant effect more than the value stuff on the second time warp, because right now the meta is just really fast. Again, might change around with the Apexis nerf, but before the Apexis nerf, the meta was really fast. Okay, and these guys now also cost 1 chronum. Yeah, Radio Star, same deal as the Dragon, right? It's like a value thing where you pick it up, it doesn't really give you tempo. You have to get really lucky with what you steal. So at 1 chronum, now maybe you can justify it. So we'll see. Twirler, after 2 blood gems are played on this, cast blood gem barrage. Again, I've never played with this. Now, this definitely has potential, but again, you need to set up for it. You need to have the Piper already. You need to have maybe the 6-drop Quillbor that has rally +1/+1 to your gems, because if you don't have any gem buffs, it is tough to make a card like this work. Oh yeah, the Radio Star is now a great discovery from the Beanstalk. That's true. Even like Carathras, right? That's true. Turning things into 1 cost You have the Time Warp Beanstalk. If you can Beanstalk a Radio Star, that is fun, yeah, for sure. Because that's much earlier that you get to use it. That's a good observation. Okay, then we have Time Warp Recycler. Yeah, at 6 it was tough to pick, very tough. So at 5, yeah, we could try. Have a little fun with that. It really is exclusive to, like, I need to have Mana Saber on my board. I need to have Risen Rider and then, you know, like another Death Rattle thing. But in the right setup, you can consider it. That's, yeah, Avenge 5 does help. Smuggler goes to 2 health. I still don't really see how this was being played, like how you're adding a lot of attack to your board. I guess Hooktail. It's got to be Hooktail, right? Have a Hooktail on your board. Yeah, like this might just be Hooktail exclusive. Whenever a friendly minion gains attack, give it 2 health. Sure. Like a pair of Hooktails and then there's like pop, 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 pop. Sure. Time Warp Raider now is 3-2 instead of 3-3. I do like this nerf as opposed to not having it buff itself, because that's always annoying when they do that. When the buff card doesn't buff itself, it's always so hard to keep. Now, the Raider, when you had Tethys and the Visionary Shipment on the board already, this was a great addition because you just have a lot of money, and if you have a lot of money, you're going to play a lot of tier 4 cards, and it gives you a lot of tempo, and it's just easy to play. The win rate on this is probably a little skewed because you kind of just only take this if you're already trending in that direction, and if you're trending towards infinite gold, your game's probably going to be pretty good. So it's always a little tricky to evaluate just how good that card was, but it's probably fair, right? A little bit of a nerf to someone that is popping off with Pirates is probably okay. And then we have Time Warp Theodore. After you play a minion with no type, give a friendly minion of each type 6/6 instead of 4/4. So that's our last change for the patch, or the hotfix rather. That is just, I don't care. I don't know, bro. It's just the time for Theo is over. I feel it used to be where you could spend your turn just buying some menagerie jugs and then you buff your menagerie board. But I don't know, man. I do not want to spend my turn buying some neutral cards. It's just a boring turn. Like neutral cards, unless it's specifically like Reef Explorer and the Panda. Like who wants to buy neutral cards, right? Like Scout, kind of. But I don't want to be buying, you know, random out. Like I don't want to be buying a Titus and then just cycling it for 6/6 on my guys. I want to have a fun turn. I want to do stuff with battle cries. I want to, yeah. And it's a little trickier as well to set up that menagerie, but who knows? That's 6/6 with the right board. I'm gonna give it a solid eh. It's a weird one, man. It's in this weird spot because you can make Theodore strong enough to where you play him, right? If it's like give your board 50-50 every time you play a neutral, it's like, okay, geez, I guess sure, right? So there definitely is a number, and it's not 50-50. It's much lower where that number you just like starts jamming him. But the playstyle is just unfun. That's the thing, right? Like it's an unfun playstyle because you're just buying and selling neutrals. Your turns are very quick. You could just buy 3 or 4 units and call it a day, right? You're just like buy, sell, sell. Now with Elise, I guess that's the one thing, right? If you have like a golden Elise from the mid game, right? Like somehow you did like golden touch, or you had the prize and you goldened an Elise with the prize. Like if you had that, if you have a golden Elise and then you get Theo, then all the monkeys are neutrals. Yeah, that's probably the only time where I want to play Theodore. I have a golden Elise. I have like a cleave and a shield on my board, and then it's like, okay, cool. I get the Theodore, I roll for my monkeys, I play my monkeys because they're neutral, I discover more 6-drops. Now, the tricky thing is that you can't discover more Theodores, and that used to be the thing. That used to be how you played Theodore. You had Elise, you farmed monkeys, and then the monkeys gave you more Theodores. I can't even get more Theodores now, so it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Okay, anyways. All right, guys, that was a hotfix. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you disagree with or stuff that I missed in general. And keep in mind that we're likely still going to get a bigger patch later on.